Hello and welcome to VNA News Daily Bulletin. Coming up next, we have your top stories.
Prime Minister Nguyen's visit strengthens Vietnam-Russia comprehensive strategic partnership. Vietnam Fatherland Front leader congratulates Buddhist on Buddha's birthday. Vietnam and the Republic of Korea re-sign memorandum of understanding on labor reception.
Prime Minister Nguyen has a busy schedule during his official visit to Russia. We joined the Prime Minister to see how his trip is progressing.
On May 16th, Prime Minister Phuc held talks with his Russian counterpart, Dmitry Medvedev, in Moscow. Both leaders affirmed the resolve to strengthen the comprehensive strategic partnership between Vietnam and Russia. Prime Minister Medvedev welcomes the first visit to Russia by Prime Minister Phuc in his capacity as the Vietnamese government's leader, adding that Russia has always regarded Vietnam as one of his top partners in Asia-Pacific. The two leaders agreed to make concrete efforts to shore up bilateral trade by creating favorable conditions for trade activities, boosting payment by using domestic currencies, and capitalizing on the Vietnam-Eurasian Economic Union Free Trade Agreements and other free trade agreements. They consented to support oil and gas joint ventures in each country and strengthen collaboration in other areas such as petroleum refining and chemistry and liquefied gas production. The two prime ministers affirmed the continuation of close and effective cooperation in defense security, particularly in military technique. They concurred to reinforce affiliation in other potential aspects such as science, technology, education training, culture, tourism, and labor. With regard to recent complex developments in the East Sea, the two prime ministers shared the view that disputes in the waters need to be solved through peaceful measures on the basis of international law. After talks, the leaders witnessed the signing ceremony of cooperation agreements between ministries, sectors, and businesses of Vietnam and Russia. Afterwards, the two prime ministers co-chaired an international press conference to affirm their government's standpoints on strengthening bilateral cooperation in a more effective and practical manner. The same day, Prime Minister Nguyen hosted a reception for President of the Russian Communist Party, Gennady Zyuganov. Prime Minister Phuc emphasized the warm and trustworthy relationship between Vietnam and the Soviet Union in the past and Russia at present, adding that the governments and people of Vietnam always keep in mind the sentiments and valuable support of Russian communists and people during their past struggle for national liberation and the current national defense and construction. For his part, Zyuganov congratulated the Communist Party of Vietnam on the success of the 12th Party Congress, where major development orientations were set forth for the country in the time ahead. He suggested the two parties share information and experience in the party work. Also on May 16th, Prime Minister Nguyen met with representatives of the Russia-Vietnam Friendship Association and the Association of Russian Former Military Experts, during which he reminisced about the sacrifice of many Russian experts, scientists, and citizens for Vietnam's independence. He briefed the Russian war veterans and experts on the achievements Vietnam has attained after 30 years of reform, as well as the country's foreign policy, saying Vietnam attaches importance to developing relations with traditional friends, including Russia. On May 17th, Prime Minister Nguyen met with Speaker of Russia's State Duma, Sergei Naryshkin, in Moscow, during which he asked the Vietnamese and Russian legislative bodies to enhance ties. Both sides rejoiced over the far-reaching partnership, as seen in the tightened political relations with high mutual trust and regular delegation exchanges at all levels that have driven up the country's all-faceted cooperation. They voiced delight at the close coordination between Vietnam's National Assembly and Russia's Federal Assembly. They applauded the two parliaments' frequent meetings and sharing of information and experience, which have greatly contributed to the growth in their respective nations. Prime Minister Nguyen asked the two parliaments to ensure the effect and enforceability of the international treaties that both Vietnam and Russia have participated in, including the 1982 UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Also, on May 17th, the Vietnamese delegation laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, a war memorial dedicated to the Russian soldiers killed during World War II in Moscow. They also paid homage to Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, the great leader of the working class and the international communist movement, at his mausoleum in the Russian capital city.
The same day, Prime Minister Nguyen visited Zarubezhneft, one of Russia's leading oil and gas groups. Zarubezhneft General Director Sergei Kudryashov thanked the Vietnamese government for its support over the past number of years and pledged to boost ties with Vietnamese partners in the future. The Prime Minister spoke highly of the cooperation between the Vietnam National Oil and Gas Group and Zarubezhneft. He said the Vietnamese government always provides all possible support for sustainable, long-term and mutually beneficial collaboration between the two countries, as well as between Petro-Vietnam and Zarubezhneft in particular. He expressed his support to firms which study and expand the exploration of oil and gas in the two countries or the third country. The guest also suggested seeking new forms of cooperation, especially in processing petrol products, manufacturing engine fuels, and applying green technologies.
On May 17th, President of the Vietnam Fatherland Front Central Committee Nguyen visited and congratulated the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha's Executive Council on the birthday of Buddha.
The front leader highlighted Buddhism's long-lasting tradition within the nation and its contributions to the patriotism tradition as well as the cause of national construction and defense. He noted that Vietnam is now home to more than 48,000 Buddhist monks and nuns who are practicing the religion in over 17,000 Buddhist worshipping sites, with each receiving up to 1,000 followers annually. Many monks have worked as National Assembly deputies, helping to convey the voice of Buddhists to the legislature, Nguyen said, adding that Buddhism's strong development has reflected religious freedom in the country. The Front President also praised Buddhist contributions to humanitarian activities, especially their support for people affected by natural disasters. Most Venerable Thích Thanh Nhiễu, Vice President of the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha's Executive Council, reassured that the Council and Buddhist followers at home and abroad will always unite with each other to carry forward the fine traditions of Vietnamese Buddhism and make more contributions to national construction and defense, environmental protection, and response to climate change.
Vietnam and the Republic of Korea have signed a memorandum of understanding on sending and receiving Vietnamese workers under the employment permit system.
The document was signed by Vietnamese Minister of Labour, Invalids and Social Affairs Đào Ngọc Dung and Korean Minister of Employment and Labour Lee Ki-kwon in Hanoi on May 17th. During a working session on the same day, the two ministers discussed future links and measures to reduce the rate of illegal migrant workers in both countries. They also talked about the Republic of Korea's support for Vietnam to develop a job information system, cooperation agreements on labor safety, and other issues of common concern. Under the Memorandum of Understanding, authorities of the two countries will work together to build a plan to organize Korean language and technical skill exams for workers who expect to join the employment permit system. In the framework of the program, over 75,000 Vietnamese guest workers have been sent to the Republic of Korea since 2004. They have been praised for their hard work and creativeness. However, the rate of Vietnamese laborers working illegally in the East Asian country has remained high in recent years, negatively affecting the labor cooperation between the two countries. The re-signing of the document is expected to bring opportunities to thousands of Vietnamese laborers who wish to work in the Republic of Korea, including those who have unlawfully resided and worked in the country and voluntarily returned home.
We have more news coming up next. Stay tuned.
A Vietnamese-made flying machine has successfully approached near space at the height of 25 kilometers from the town of Alice Springs in Australia. The flying machine is developed by a group of Vietnamese engineers, with the head of the group being Phạm Gia Vinh, who has devoted himself to the work since he returned to Vietnam after graduating from a polytechnic school in Rennes, France. The event has opened up great prospects of using the device for studying the upper atmosphere, the environment and natural resources, and serving telecommunications and national defense purposes.
Some countries in the world possess technologies to develop flying instruments, but this is the first of its kind in Vietnam. This is great progress for aeronautical and space research in the country.
At the height of about 30 kilometers, the instrument will help scientists to easily observe and study the formation and path of storms. Its advantage is that it can transfer data faster than satellites. Experts say with its prominent features and reasonable production cost, it can be used in a number of fields that would serve people.
Vietnam imported around 8,000 complete built-up unit cars worth $182 million in April, down 20% compared with the same period last year. More details coming up.
According to the General Statistics Office, a reduction in the import of vehicles from India may be the reason for the decrease, notwithstanding the strong growth of imports from Thailand, mainly pickup models such as Ford Ranger, Mazda BT50, and Toyota Hilux. Vietnam's special consumption tax on vehicles with high engine displacement will officially increase from July 1, 2016. This could be the reason for the robust imports from Thailand. The import of vehicles from China has come to a standstill following Vietnam's move to tighten control on overloaded trucks, which were blamed for damaging roads and threatening the safety of other travelers. In the first 4 months of this year, some 28,000 complete built-up unit cars worth $669 million were imported to Vietnam, decreasing by 20.4% and 23.5% respectively, compared with the same period last year.
The Chi Minh City People's Committee has approved a flood management project for the 2016 to 2021 period, with total investment capital of $400 million funded by the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development.
Accordingly, the southern largest economic hub will also seek a corresponding capital of $37 million to carry out the project. The investment will be used to build a series of works, including 6 water monitoring stations and embankments along Tham Luang, Bến Cát, Nước Lên Canal, and upgrade drainage systems in Gò Vấp district. In addition, the project will also install 5 weather stations, a weather radar system, 80 rainfall measuring, and 20 gauging stations. As part of the project, a center will be established to collect, store, and disseminate information about floods in order to improve flood forecasting capacity. In recent years, Ho Chi Minh City has disbursed tens of thousands of billion Vietnam dong for flood prevention projects, but they failed to bring in expected results due to impacts from the urbanization process, climate change, and capital shortage.
And that was the end of our news bulletin. Thanks for tuning in. For more information, please log on to our website at vietnamplus.vn. We'll see you soon.